He was once the reincarnation of an incredibly powerful Onmyaji, but out of fear of that power, his clan sealed him and turned him into a cripple. However, when he returned, he shook the world once again. The story begins with the sound of cicadas echoing through a summer school classroom. Naruto is dozing off in class when Sasuke calls out to wake him before the teacher scolds him. In truth, the blonde protagonist is Haruto, and his friend is Taoji. Haruto had just had a dream about his own Shikigami. After class, he and his friend go out to buy ice cream to cool off in the summer heat. While they're chatting, a girl suddenly flies in and attacks Haruto. She scolds him for not answering her calls, then demands that he take her out to eat as an apology. The three of them stop by a park, and Haruto treats the girl, Hokuto, to a shaved ice dessert. After eating, she brings up the real reason she came to see him, asking whether he has decided to become an Onmyaji yet. Through Hokuto's words, we learn that Haruto is a member of the Tsuchimikado family, a descendant of the Onmyaji Abe no Seimei. However, Haruto has no intention of becoming an Onmyaji because he can't see spirits, nor can he even sense them. Haruto is considered talentless within the family. Besides, they already selected a successor long ago. As they keep talking, Haruto spills the shaved ice on himself, so the conversation is put on hold. Taoji asks what they'll do next. Since he just recently moved here, Haruto suggests they go watch the upcoming fireworks. After agreeing on the plan, the two boys say goodbye to Hokuto. Before parting ways, Taoji also asks Haruto the same thing Hokuto did, whether he doesn't want to become an Onmyaji. Haruto still refuses, believing he has no talent. Taoji emphasizes that the real question is whether he wants to or not. It's not about talent, and in his opinion, Haruto has a lot of potential. The two agree to meet tomorrow before parting. Haruto walks up the stairs and watches the train Taoji leaves on. While feeling confused and unsettled, he hears footsteps from the opposite side of the bridge. When Haruto looks over, he sees Natsume, the heir of the Tsuchimikado family. Both of them are a little happy to see each other again. They admire the view and chat. Natsume came here to visit Haruto for about a week since it's still summer vacation. They talk about their everyday lives. Haruto, being from a branch family, lives comfortably, while Natsume, from the main family, is very busy. She sometimes envies Haruto's lifestyle. Hearing that, Haruto apologizes for being useless, but Natsume didn't mean it that way. The two get into a little argument, which ends with Hokuto accidentally blurting out that Natsume isn't cute at all, completely shocking her. Natsume storms off in a huff. The next day, Taoji comes over to Haruto's house. The news report on TV drowns out Taoji's voice. It's about a spirit disaster happening in Shibuya, which was quickly resolved by a powerful Onmyaji. Taoji even knows that this person is one of the 12 heavenly generals. Haruto sees how tense things are in Tokyo and remarks that it's no wonder Natsume came back here for a break. He then tells Taoji about his situation. Members of branch families become Shikigami for the main family. Taoji takes the chance to urge Haruto to seriously reconsider becoming an Onmyaji. That night, the two boys attend a festival. Haruto is really thinking about what Taoji said. Just then, Hokuto shows up wearing a yukata, stunning Haruto. While the young couple is feeling shy, Taoji invites both of them to enjoy the festival. They eat, play games, and then Hokuto stops at a shooting booth. She wants Haruto to get her that box. Not wanting her to pout like that, he steps up to the challenge. But after spending 1,000 yen, he still hasn't managed to shoot down the box. With only one shot left, he focuses intensely. Just as he takes careful aim, Hokuto leans in and whispers in his ear that if he hits the target, she'll kiss him. Startled, Haruto pulls the trigger and hits the box. Hokuto cheers in excitement and completely forgets what she just said, leaving Haruto still in shock. The prize turns out to be a bubble-blowing toy, but what Hokuto really wanted was the ribbon attached to it. She ties it in her hair, making herself even more beautiful, and Haruto can't take his eyes off her. They continue having fun afterward. Not far from where the three were, a stylishly dressed girl was strolling through the festival stalls. Instead of using money to buy things, she paid with a black card. Meanwhile, Haruto's group climbed up to the shrine on the hill. There, Hokuto wrote her wish that Haruto would become an Onmyaji. Seeing that, he became upset. Everyone kept trying to decide his life for him. All he wanted was to live peacefully in the countryside and have fun with her and Taoji. Still, Hokuto wanted him to become an Onmyaji. Not wanting to argue with her, Haruto threw Hokuto's wish card to the ground in protest. Hurt, she ran off in tears. Taoji, somewhat impressed by Haruto managing to hurt 2 girls in just 2 days, sighed and asked if he needed to punch Haruto to make him go and apologize to Hokuto. Haruto asked him back, was a peaceful life really that hard to get? Just then, the mysterious girl appeared. She invited the two to become her test subjects. Taoji immediately pushed all responsibility onto Haruto, saying he was from a famous family. Taoji knew this girl wasn't ordinary Suzuka, one of the 12 heavenly generals, was certainly anything but. Today, she had come to recreate a powerful forbidden spell once cast by Yaku, the head of the Tsuchimikado family, known as the Grand Spirit Summoning Ritual, Teizen Fukun. As she approached them, the silence was suddenly shattered by the roar of trucks. 3 vehicles arrived, surrounding the 3. From them, agents released swallows carrying talismans to form a barrier. They were from the Bureau of Magical Investigation, there to arrest Suzuka for suspected use of forbidden magic. Annoyed by the trouble, Suzuka summoned a corpse controller. It unleashed thousands of talismans that swirled to form a cocoon, then created a flood that swept everyone away. Haruto was caught by her. At that moment, Hokuto rushed over after hearing the commotion. As she ran, calling out Haruto's name, Suzuka realized she had the wrong person. She needed Natsume, not some branch family boy. She left a message for Natsume come meet her, or she'd cut off this guy's 2 quail eggs. Not stopping there, once she realized Hokuto's feelings, Suzuka forcefully kissed Haruto in front of her. Then she left. Haruto ran over to Hokuto, who was now in pain and despair. Her tears began to fall, and no matter how Haruto tried to explain, her heart would never heal. In the days that followed, Hokuto stopped coming to school, and Haruto couldn't reach her. Meanwhile, he had sent word to Natsume. At the same time, Taoji brought up the ritual Suzuka mentioned, Teizen Fukun, the Grand Spirit Summoning, a technique of terrifying power. Many on Miyagi believed Yaku tried to use it to resurrect himself. From that, Taoji guessed Suzuka wanted to use the ritual to bring someone back from the dead, and if that person was Yaku, the world would be thrown into chaos again. She might be trying to use the Tsuchimikado heir Natsume. Just then, the phone rang. Haruto checked it, it was Natsume. The two met at a cafe on a rainy day. After a brief exchange, Natsume revealed why she came. The altar used for the Teizen Fukun ritual was located here, on the mountain behind the main family estate, a place called Miyama. Suzuka would have to perform the ritual there. Natsume had come to protect the altar. Haruto sighed after hearing this and told his younger cousin to return to Tokyo. He would protect the altar in her place. He said that since this was the responsibility of the Tsuchimikado family, then he was part of it too. If Suzuka was after Natsume, it would be better for her to return to Tokyo where others could protect her. Hearing this eased her worries a little. Things were beginning to look better until Haruto let slip that Suzuka had kissed him by force, which made Natsume furious. Haruto tried to explain and save the situation, but suddenly a sharp pain struck his stomach. From his mouth came a talisman-formed wasp. It flew straight toward Natsume and stung her, draining her spiritual energy. Once it was done, it flew off. Haruto quickly rushed Natsume back to the main house. According to her, Suzuka would come there to perform the ritual. Natsume needed to get there quickly to use the tools that could restore her spiritual power. On the taxi, Taoji called to inform Haruto that the police were in an uproar, and many vehicles from the Bureau of Magical Investigation were arriving. They were preparing to capture Suzuka. Haruto reported his side of the situation to Taoji, but suddenly, a series of water pillars appeared, spinning the taxi around and forcing it to stop. Knowing Suzuka was nearby, he ordered the driver to continue taking Natsume back to the main house, while he would handle her. Following the traces of the battle, Haruto saw agents from the bureau surrounding Suzuka. She was at a disadvantage, trying to protect the wasp while fighting at the same time. Refusing to give up, she summoned a corpse controller hiding inside a car. It was bigger than the others, just one strike from it could destroy everything. It spun silk and trapped the Onmyaji, draining all their spiritual power. Afterward, Suzuka hugged the wasp and said something about reviving her brother. A phone suddenly rang, revealing Haruto's hiding spot. It was Hokuto calling, but he ignored the call to confront Suzuka. He demanded to know why she was harming so many people just to resurrect one. Suzuka felt no guilt. She believed it was right. She began telling her story, Their parents never treated the siblings as human. Both were taken for experiments and subjected to numerous forbidden spells. Those same people caused her brother's death. She believed she could bring him back using Natsume's spiritual energy and a fair price. That price was her own life. Haruto objected, saying her brother probably didn't want this. He sacrificed himself for her to live a better life, and now she was doing this. He was sure her brother wouldn't approve. Haruto urged her to think again. As doubts started to form in her heart, one of the Bureau's agents tried to apprehend her again. Furious, she commanded the corpse controller to attack. Haruto rushed in to protect the man, but it was Hokuto who took the hit. She had come when Haruto ignored her call. Hokuto shoved the creature away, and in her final moments, she confessed her feelings for him, then vanished into a talisman. She had been a Shikigami all along. Haruto was devastated by the loss of his friend. Suzuka mocked him and warned that if they met again, she would kill him. Then she left, leaving behind a pitiful wreck drowning in despair. Haruto ran with all his strength to the main house. As he ran, he remembered his memories with Hokuto. Upon arrival, he begged Natsume to turn him into her Shikigami. Because he had run from responsibility, he had lost what truly mattered. He didn't want to run anymore. He needed power to protect everyone. Responding to his plea, Natsume cut her lip with a knife, then used her tongue to draw a star over his eye, the binding ritual. Haruto had now become her personal Shikigami. At last, he saw something he had never known before. With no time to waste, the two rushed to the altar where Suzuka was now about to complete the final step of the ritual. Sensing their presence, she commanded the spider-type corpse controller to weave a barrier around them, making it impossible to break in. Natsume tried to reason with her. The living interfering with death was impossible. But Suzuka refused to listen. The creature attacked. Haruto quickly told Natsume to guide the horse to follow him. Then he used his sword to cut off one of its legs. Meanwhile, Suzuka summoned more corpse controllers to buy time. As the two fought them off, Suzuka began the ritual. The sound of drums roared across the mountain. Distracted by the altar, Haruto was knocked off the horse by a corpse controller. In that dire moment, Natsume summoned Hokuto to save him. It was a dragon-type Shikigami that protected members of the Tsuchimikado family. After grabbing Haruto and returning him to Natsume, it ignored her commands and charged at the corpse controller. The two beasts clashed repeatedly. After retrieving Haruto, Natsume used her blood to unseal his sword and transformed it into a divine slaying blade. They pressed on. Natsume dropped Haruto from the horse to fight the spider. He and the divine blade paralyzed the creature. To be sure, he climbed its body and located its core. From above, Natsume destroyed it with a shot from her bow. With that done, Haruto and Natsume got back on the horse and raced to the altar, but the spider was still functional, and it furiously charged at them. Luckily, Hokuto arrived to take care of the spider, giving Natsume the chance to ride full speed on horseback. Just as she arrived, before she could act, Suzuka activated a charm that trapped both of them, and then continued the ritual. The moment the bee entered the corpse marked the completion of the ritual. A pillar of light appeared in the sky, accompanied by black projectiles. When the light faded, Suzuka's brother had completed the ritual, but she only had a brief moment of joy before her own brother began to strangle her. This was the price Suzuka had to pay, and she accepted it with a smile. Haruto, though filled with hatred for Suzuka for killing Hokuto, couldn't stand by and watch someone die in front of him. He struggled to break free and used his ears to pull off the charms, freeing Natsume, who then removed the remaining charms from Haruto. Without delay, Haruto rushed in to attack Suzuka's brother. Through his Onmyoji eyes, he saw that Suzuka's brother was being controlled by some kind of string. Haruto tried to cut it, but he couldn't touch it. In desperation, he threw the box on his back at it, hoping his ancestors would lend their strength. An explosion followed. In his days, Haruto saw Yaku speaking with a Shikigami that vowed to serve him for life. But before he could hear more, Natsume woke him up. She had used a spell to push all the souls back. Some time later, everything was over. Only Suzuka remained, crying beside her brother's corpse. Seeing her in pain, Haruto no longer wanted revenge. However, the pain of losing Hokuto still lingered. Natsume examined Hokuto's charm and said that she was still alive. Hokuto was a type of interactive Shikigami, meaning she had a controller and was nearby. Hearing this, Haruto felt more relieved than ever and hoped to meet her again one day. The next day, Haruto recounted the events to Taoji. The question now was, who was Hokuto's master? Haruto also informed Taoji that he would be going to Tokyo, since Shikigami must stay close to their master, meaning Haruto would be studying at the Onmyoji Academy with Natsume. Not long after, Haruto arrived in Tokyo. A while later, Natsume came to pick him up, dressed like a boy, apparently a tradition in her family. Haruto didn't seem to understand why, which made Natsume hit him. At that moment, Taoji also arrived. He had enrolled in the same academy as Haruto. After the Onmyoji disaster, Taoji gained the ability to see spirits. Haruto introduced Natsume to Taoji, but Taoji already knew her. He even said the three of them used to play together, and that she was Hokuto's master. Natsume often used Hokuto to communicate with Haruto and express her emotions. She still kept the ribbon from when the three of them went to the festival. It seemed Haruto hadn't realized that yet. When they arrived at the academy, Haruto was assigned a dorm room and given a school uniform. After changing, the two of them went to the school. Inside, they were led by a cat to meet the principal, Mio. She told them that because of their connection to Natsume, who was rumored to be Yaku's reincarnation, they would receive a lot of unwanted attention at this school. Yaku was originally just an ordinary Onmyoji with both good and bad sides. After failing in the Taisen Fukan ritual, a spirit disaster occurred, bringing shame to the Tsuchimikado family. Even so, there were still followers who revered him and tried to get close to Natsume due to the rumor. Their conversation was interrupted by a limping man who entered the room. The principal ended the meeting and introduced him as Jin, their homeroom teacher. They were then taken to class and introduced in front of everyone. Immediately, Haruto faced his first challenge. A girl stood up and objected to Haruto joining the class, accusing him of using the Tsuchimikado family's name to sneak in through the back door. Natsume stood up and refuted all the accusations, saying that after the spirit disaster, the Tsuchimikado family's reputation had already hit rock bottom, and they had no power to influence anything. The two got into a heated argument. The teacher, rather than stopping it, found it amusing. In the end, Haruto remained in the class. Natsume could only talk to both of them at once before having to leave for special training. To find out what was going on in the class, Taoji dragged Haruto to question a quiet classmate. That classmate was Tenma. According to him, the girl from earlier that morning was Kyoko, the granddaughter of the principal and the head of the Kurahashi family. The Kurahashi and Tsuchimikado families used to compete with each other, but Kurahashi had taken the lead after the disaster. So, Kyoko and Natsume clashing in class wasn't anything unusual. Additionally, Tenma said that Natsume usually spoke very little in class, so her standing up and rebutting like that had surprised everyone. That afternoon, Natsume was also surprised by Haruto's terrible academic skills when she saw that he had scored 0 in every subject. She decided to help him catch up with all the basics. At that moment, the teacher came again to summon her for training. Natsume wrote a list for Haruto to study in the library. He kept studying until nightfall, then dragged himself back to the dormitory to rest. It was only then that he remembered his father had sent a Shikigami from the countryside. After taking a quick look, he accidentally summoned a girl. She introduced herself as Kan, a Shikigami who would protect him. She was very shy when introducing herself. Haruto curiously asked what powers she had. She could turn invisible, shoot fire, and perform assassinations, all of which greatly excited Haruto. He praised Kan, which made her embarrassed. Then Haruto asked if he could touch her tail out of curiosity. She blushed because they were very sensitive, but still allowed him to touch them. Haruto was thrilled as they felt just like the dog he had back home. Still curious, he asked how the tail worked. Suddenly, mixed with embarrassment, Kan used all her strength to take off her pants to show him the tail. Right at that moment, Natsume arrived to tutor Haruto. Seeing this scene, Haruto couldn't talk his way out of it and ended up getting attacked by Natsume. The next day, Haruto was so exhausted he couldn't focus. Teacher Jin reminded him, and Kyoko spoke up, asking the teacher to continue the lesson because she didn't want to be held back by the incompetent. However, the teacher didn't like that. He said the ones who get left behind are a harsh reality, but he didn't believe that was right. Haruto apologized for not being able to concentrate and promised he would catch up with everyone if someone could support him. He said he wasn't here to play around, but to become an Onmyoji. Kyoko harshly criticized this, but Kan immediately appeared and pointed a sword at her, warning her not to insult Haruto. Kyoko didn't back down and summoned her two Shikigami. Just as a battle was about to break out, Teacher Jin interrupted and proposed they have a proper duel. Knowing he couldn't win with only Kon, Haruto asked the teacher for a favor before the battle started. After that, Haruto also suited up for combat with Kon. As soon as the fight began, Haruto's wooden sword was broken, and Teacher Jin declared Kyoko the winner. Back in class, Natsume scolded Haruto for overestimating himself. While the two were talking, other classmates came to chat with Haruto. They expressed admiration for his bravery. They were also excited about Kon, as aside from Kyoko and Natsume, Haruto was the third student in class to have a guardian Shikigami. From afar, Natsume saw Haruto surrounded by everyone and felt a little down. Taoji showed up to comfort her, but Natsume, feeling irritated, walked away. When Kyoko entered the class, she saw the scene and went over. The next day, Kyoko asked to meet Haruto privately to apologize for her harsh behavior. Haruto asked why she had used him to talk to Natsume. She then confessed that when they were little, she and Natsume had made a promise, but when they reunited at the academy, Natsume acted like she didn't know her, which made Kyoko very sad. She then asked about Haruto's relationship with Natsume, saying she'd heard from Taoji that Haruto had become Natsume's Shikigami through a physical relationship. Haruto quickly denied it and said they just did it the normal way. Besides, their relationship was that of master and servant. Haruto just wanted to share part of the burden of the family with Natsume. Resolving her doubts made Kyoko feel relieved. She stood a little close to him, which Natsume saw as she arrived. Without letting Haruto explain, she accused him of not focusing on training and instead trying to flatter others. She said he shouldn't rely on others, but should rise by his own strength. There was a sense of pent-up frustration in her voice that made her burst into tears. Haruto stepped down to comfort Natsume. Suddenly, the wall beside them cracked open, and Natsume pushed Haruto out before being taken away by a black mist. Taoji and Tenma arrived after hearing the noise. Tenma recognized the mastermind as a follower of Yaku. As the principal had mentioned before, Yaku's followers had been trying to get close to Natsume, which was why she had been interrogated by the Bureau of Magic Investigation. Haruto realized she had hidden this fact by lying that she was undergoing special training. That was also why she kept her distance from everyone to avoid dragging anyone else into this. Haruto regretted being so careless and not noticing it. Tenma ran up and handed Haruto the staff that Teacher Jin had asked him to deliver. Everyone set out together to find Natsume. Meanwhile, she had been brought before a Yaku follower who was crazed and wanted to awaken Yaku. Just then, Haruto's group arrived. The fanatic summoned a one-armed demon, one of Yaku's two guardians, and it immediately charged to attack them. Jin's staff was still able to block its attack. They split up to attack, but lacking battle experience, they were quickly overwhelmed. The fanatic then forced Natsume to admit that she was Yaku reincarnated, promising to spare Haruto's group if she did. Refusing, Haruto spoke up and said she didn't have to carry everything alone. She could rely on him and the others, they would help her. Regaining her resolve, Natsume rejected the fanatic, which drove him mad, and he ordered the demon to attack the group. Kyoko summoned a Shikigami to slash its leg and slow it down. Kon distracted it while Tenma used electricity to attack. When it lowered itself, Haruto struck its mask, causing the demon to lose control. The fanatic panicked and fled. Haruto quickly freed Natsume, and she summoned Hokuto to strike down the demon and end the battle. After everything, Natsume thanked everyone for saving her. Taoji quickly examined the talisman stuck to the demon's eye and reported that it was a fake. If it had been the real one, they would have had no chance of winning. Kyoko was now also tutoring Haruto. As for Natsume, she had moved in next door to Haruto, because she wanted to rely on him as he said. Also, while moving stuff, Haruto found out Kyoko liked Natsume. She probably still mistook her for a boy because of the way she dressed. Haruto had to admit that was quite surprising. One day, the dorm supervisor was doing a routine inspection and chatting casually when they suddenly heard a strange noise. Curious, they went to check it out and found Haruto undressing Natsume. It was a shocking discovery about a supposed boy-love couple. They quickly took pictures. Other girls heard the commotion and came to see, witnessing the same thing. A nasty rumor started spreading. In the cafeteria, Taoji heard the two people in question explain the situation. Basically, it was all because of a mishap with the shared bathroom, leading to that scene. Now, the boys were too afraid to approach them, while the girls were excitedly shipping the two. It was all because of Natsume's boyish way of dressing. After a while, the gossip became boring. Haruto suggested they go out on their day off. He wanted a break from all the studying and training. Taoji couldn't join due to being busy, so it was just Haruto and Natsume. She was secretly happy because this felt like a date. On Sunday, the two went downtown. Haruto wanted to buy some clothes. He preferred secondhand shops since he didn't have much money for new ones. He asked Natsume if she knew any places, but she didn't. She usually ordered everything online. Hearing that, Haruto sighed and muttered that maybe he should have invited Taoji instead. His comment unintentionally hurt Natsume's pride. She then insisted on taking him to find one. However, they ended up walking around until evening with no real destination. Haruto suggested ending the outing, but Natsume stubbornly pulled him along. At that moment, Haruto looked around and noticed something was off. He quickly pulled Natsume back. They had entered the Love Hotel district. When she realized it, her face turned red in embarrassment. Her feelings shifted from shame to disappointment. She had thought this would be a real date between the two of them, but it ended up like this. The falling rain added a final touch of despair to Natsume's heart. Haruto tried to comfort his childhood friend, but the two had to leave when they heard the voices of the two dorm supervisors approaching, as someone had tipped them off that Haruto and Natsume were nearby. With no place to hide, they ran into a nearby Love Hotel, an extremely awkward situation. Haruto turned on the TV, but it only showed adult films, making him flustered, so he changed the subject, saying that being able to spend time alone with Natsume today made him really happy, even if they didn't do much. Hearing that, Natsume also cheered up. Seeing her rain-soaked body, Haruto told her to change clothes before she caught a cold, but she misunderstood and thought he wanted to do that kind of thing. She said she would take a shower first. As the couple was caught in a fluttery mood, Kon suddenly appeared. With a cold and slightly jealous voice, she informed them that Shikigami were searching for them, those belonging to Tenma and Kyoko, the two dorm supervisors who hadn't given up and had enlisted help. Haruto panicked, thinking that if they were caught, his student life would be over. Natsume reassured him that she could handle their Shikigami. Just as they were relieved, Kon regretfully announced that he had appeared Mr. Jin. He just happened to be passing by. After hearing the story, he decided to help them by summoning 6 more Shikigami to speed up the search. Natsume, now panicked, set up a barrier, though she wasn't confident it would be enough to escape. As panic turned into despair, one name came to Haruto's mind. He called Toji for help. Toji traced the address to the hotel and left with Natsume, while Haruto went the other way. Toji brought Natsume to meet Jin's group, pretending to bump into them by chance. A bit later, Haruto also pretended to arrive, and just like that, they had narrowly escaped. But not quite. Kon returned and said Haruto had left behind his towel and hairbrush at the hotel. Everyone gave him a different look. This guy wasn't just effeminate, he also liked little girls. At this point, there was no saving him. Everyone kept their distance. No one wanted to help Haruto out of this one. Jin's Shikigami had returned, and he went to deal with the fanatic who had kidnapped Natsume. The mastermind behind it all had revealed himself and sent people to take care of Haruto. 6 months had passed since Haruto enrolled. They were now beginning exams, and Haruto had studied day and night to the point of exhaustion, though nothing seemed to stick. Kon wanted to help him cheat but was stopped by Natsume. When the written test ended, Haruto was devastated because he couldn't answer a single question. Natsume said they could still be saved since there was a practical exam. And indeed, Haruto had made remarkable progress over the past 6 months. In the practical, he and Kon teamed up to defeat 2 of Kyoko's Shikigami. As for Toji, he was summoned alone to meet the principal. She told him that he was given special priority for the upcoming exam because the academy would recreate the previous spirit disaster for students to purify. As someone who had once been a victim, Toji would be favored to participate. Meanwhile, the mysterious old man named Daman was also preparing people for the upcoming exam. Elsewhere, Mr. Jin met with Chief Amami, who introduced him to a man named Harada, his successor in investigating the spirit disaster. To clarify, that event was regarded as a terrorist attack using a spiritual disaster, known as the Grand Purge, carried out by the Syndicate using an army of necromancers. The leader, Shido, was dead, but the Syndicate remained active to this day. They were now working on a massive plot. A suspect named D had recently made contact with the Syndicate, a powerful figure among the necromancers named Chihiro. At the same time, Haruto was about to enjoy a grand meal after all the intense studying. But before he could dig in, Natsume arrived and stopped him, saying no food until he finished studying. Kon voiced her displeasure, sparking an argument between the two. Frustrated, Haruto got smacked around by Kon's tail and looked out the window at the building across the street, where he saw Toji deep in thought. That night, Toji reflected on the principal's words. As a victim who had unwillingly gained powers, his future would be tougher than most. But she would be there to guide him toward the future he wanted. Just then, Haruto came to visit. He had just finished reviewing with Natsume. Haruto asked how Toji had been doing lately. Toji assured him that he was still fine, and that his spiritual energy remained under control thanks to the medicine from Haruto's father. Hearing that, Haruto felt somewhat relieved. After chatting for a while, Haruto left early to rest and prepare for the test the next day. He also wished Toji good luck with his part. The next day, all students were taken to the purification testing site. Natsume, having special status, didn't need to participate. Everything was still under control under Kyoko's leadership, except for Haruto, who was still clueless while drawing talismans. Just then, Natsume sensed an abnormally high amount of spiritual energy, and from where Haruto stood, a large number of spirits began appearing. The teachers, seeing the situation spiraling out of control, rushed in to assist. Toji began showing symptoms, and Tenma quickly reported an emergency to the Exorcist Bureau, which was already receiving urgent alerts from other regions across Tokyo. They suspected it was a terrorist attack using a spirit disaster. Back at Haruto's location, as things continued to get out of control, Natsume was forced to summon Hokuto to deal with the cursed energy. Still unable to rest, Toji continued to suffer, as something else was approaching. Then, a demon appeared from above. According to the teachers, its name was Nu. It roared, rendering everyone immobile. The teachers used talismans to cover everyone's retreat, but Kon sensed that this Nu was afraid of something. Then from outside, Rijin, one of the 12 heavenly generals, appeared. With just a glance, the Nu fled in panic, but it couldn't escape, as Rijin had locked onto it. He used fire magic to strike it down. The Nu fell directly toward Kyoko, nearly killing her, had she not used her Shikigami to protect herself in time. Natsume spoke up about how Rijin's attacks showed complete disregard for others, but Rijin, being powerful, didn't give a damn about civilians. Then he approached Natsume, knowing she was the reincarnation of Yauko, the one who defeated Suzuka. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to fight her. Haruto stepped forward to stop him, and Hokuto separated him from Natsume. Outside, Chihiro took advantage of the situation and used cursed energy to heal the Nu, allowing it to escape. Meanwhile, Toji was still in pain. Rijin, upon realizing Toji was a spirit disaster, grew excited. He kicked Haruto aside and examined Toji, revealing that he was a half-demon. Rijin grabbed Toji's head with twisted enthusiasm. To prevent another spirit disaster from happening, he intended to kill Toji. Haruto stepped in to stop him, and even Toji used his demon powers to crush Rijin's hand. The pain forced Rijin to let go. Natsume joined the battle to support her two friends. It became a 3-on-1 situation, but Rijin still wasn't afraid and unleashed his spiritual power. At that moment, 2 crows appeared, stopping him from going too far. Another member of the 12 heavenly generals then arrived. The 2 crows informed them that Rijin had let the Nu escape. The motorbike-riding elder brother ordered Rijin to go after it. Before leaving, Rijin said he had remembered all 3 of their names, then vanished. Afterward, Haruto quickly brought Toji to the hospital for treatment. Haruto apologized for keeping it a secret from them. Even though Toji was a half-demon, he had been treated and was now stable, no longer acting like a demon. Later, they were summoned by the principal, while Teacher Jin was questioning Chief Amami, blaming the involvement of Rijin for messing up all their plans. The chief had anticipated this as well, since this disaster involved 4 Nu appearing, 2 at the gate of the demon realm, and 2 at the return gate. So far, only 2 had been dealt with. The other 2 had escaped. To respond, the Exorcist Bureau reused the strategy from 2 years ago, using Shikigami from the Tsuchimikado clan to lure the Nu out. Kyoko objected to her grandmother, but the principal said that whether they proceed or not still depended on Natsume. After thinking it through, Natsume decided to go along with the proposed plan. Then the phone rang. The principal received both good and bad news. First, Taoji had regained consciousness. The bad news was, he had escaped. She remarked that he still seemed lost and confused. After leaving the principal's office, Natsume ordered Haruto to go find Taoji. She said she would be fine as long as everyone was with her. Haruto immediately set off with Tenma to search for Taoji. And as for Natsume's group, they met the biker guy again, who introduced himself as Zenjinro, an independent onmyoji. He would serve as her bodyguard during the process of luring out the new. While talking, he also revealed that Teacher Jin was actually one of the 12 heavenly generals, except that he had withdrawn. At that moment, Harada entered. He would be joining them too. For some reason, when Natsume looked at Harada, she had a strange feeling reminiscent of Yaku's followers. Meanwhile, Haruto's group had split up, with Kon and Tenma going to find Taoji. They needed to reach him before he lost control. While running, Haruto didn't look ahead and accidentally bumped into a group of drunken thugs. He tried to retreat, but they refused to let him go. Just when things got difficult, a white-haired man appeared and saved him. The thugs, realizing they were no match, chose to walk away. Haruto quickly asked the man if he had seen someone his age wearing the same school uniform. The man pointed in a direction, and Haruto thanked him and ran off to search. Back to Natsume's group, she had arrived at the ritual site. She called Hokuto out, and before long, a new appeared. Meanwhile, Haruto found Taoji at the purification exam grounds. A glance was enough for Haruto to tell that his friend was partially possessed. Haruto tried bringing him back by recalling their past, slowly trying to reach him, but Taoji rejected it. He said this was the fastest way to eliminate a disaster like himself. Then, he began transforming into a new. The two friends engaged in a fierce battle, Haruto fighting while trying to stir up their shared memories. In the end, Taoji still couldn't bring himself to attack Haruto. He kept taking blows while listening to Haruto's emotional words. Gradually, Taoji returned to human form. Haruto knocked him unconscious and contacted Natsume to report. Her side was stable for the moment, having sealed one new inside a barrier. But just then, the second new appeared. Natsume had Hokuto lure it into the prepared barrier, but Chihiro intervened, summoning a large amount of yin energy around the first new, evolving it into a higher level new. Things started spiraling out of control when the second new escaped. Zenjinro jumped on his bike to chase after it. Natsume joined him since he needed her Hokuto to track it. The two sped off and soon spotted the new. Zenjinro summoned his Shikigami, a flock of crows, to attack and lure it to an open area for battle. However, the new wasn't easily tricked and fled. Natsume had Hokuto pursue it. Meanwhile, Haruto was also sprinting in search of Natsume. Taoji woke up in the infirmary and was greeted by the principal, who informed him that she had released the seal placed on him. Now he could control the demon inside. However, his private doctor Haruto's father insisted that only when his son used it effectively would he accept it. As for Kyoko's side, 3 of the 12 heavenly generals were trying to suppress the first new. Hokuto was still toying with the second. Natsume and Haruto regrouped, but just as they saw each other, Chihiro appeared and interrupted. He summoned a Yoma commander to block their path. Seeing the second new about to escape, Zenjinro told Natsume to chase it while he stayed behind to fight. He also sent his Shikigami and motorcycle to take Natsume. She sped through the flames and picked up Haruto. Because of the sudden movement, Haruto's hand ended up in the wrong place, but fortunately the bike was self-driving, taking them on the right path. Suddenly, Hokuto fell from the sky. Haruto quickly climbed on, and with Kon, they continued the chase. At the academy, Taoji borrowed the Tsuchimikado family's horse to go assist Haruto. Before he left, Tenma brought Teacher Jin's staff. Unlike others, Tenma still considered Taoji a friend no matter what he was. Taking the staff, Taoji dashed off. Meanwhile, Haruto was battling the new. Hokuto was holding her own, while Kon tried to help but was swatted away. Zenjinro's 2 crows also engaged in battle. Kon rushed back and only to get sent flying again. Just as Haruto worried for her, the new attacked, but Kon returned in time to take the hit. However, she was close to her limit. In that moment of danger, the half-demon General Taoji arrived to back them up. He threw his staff toward Haruto to provide support, and Haruto unleashed his power, striking the new on the head and slamming it down to the ground. That was when the head of the Tsuchimikado clan took action. Natsume chanted a high-level spell, creating a black hole that dragged the new into it, successfully purifying it. The group then regrouped, and Taoji had finally accepted the demon part within himself. He no longer rejected it. Ryujin arrived to observe Haruto's group's progress. He acknowledged their overall strength, but this only made Natsume more famous, meaning her followers would target her even more. As for Taoji, Ryujin was certain he had a connection to the demon from 2 years ago, though he still needed to find proof. While he was excited, Master Jin suddenly appeared behind him. Even though Jin had retired from the Celestial Generals, his voice and authority were still just as powerful. He warned Ryujin to stop coveting his students, or he'd face the consequences. Aware of the gap in strength, Ryujin had no choice but to accept the terms. Just then, Zenjinro showed up. Ryujin asked how Chihiro was doing, and Zenjinro responded with an awkward look because Chihiro had suddenly taken his own life during the battle. As the three were talking, they sensed a murderous intent. It turned out that the old man had come to check on Haruto's group. He was only there to do a rough assessment before leaving, but not before releasing a wave of overwhelming energy that left all three stunned and unable to react. Afterwards, the disaster caused by the Syndicate was completely purified. The terrorist attack was dubbed the Second Great Purge, and of course, the incident was heavily reported in the media. 1 month after the disaster, at the Onmyaji Academy, the students gathered to welcome the new freshmen. Haruto and Taoji were excited to see if there were any cute underclassmen, but instead of beauties, they got disasters. When the representative stepped up to give a speech, it was Suzuka. Everyone was immediately charmed by her fake exterior, except Haruto, who alone knew her terrifying true nature. The more he listened to her speak, the more goosebumps he got. And to pour fuel on the fire, when Suzuka saw him, she shouted his name at the top of her lungs. She didn't stop there. She also said Haruto had stolen her first kiss, throwing the entire hall into chaos. Unsurprisingly, Haruto became the target of the whole school, since Suzuka was regarded as an idol. No one believed his explanations. Kon tried to defend him but got brainwashed by Kyoko into understanding what a kiss truly meant. Taoji made things worse by making up a story that Haruto and Suzuka had a steamy night together. Natsume, who had remained silent all this time, finally spoke up and pulled Haruto outside for a talk. Haruto tried to explain that she had forced him, but Natsume didn't care about the kiss. What mattered more was that Suzuka had discovered Natsume's true gender during the previous battle. Natsume feared she would go around spreading it, which would damage her reputation. Hearing this, Haruto decided to have a serious talk with Suzuka. After class, he went to the first-year section to find her, but her classmates said she had left early. Frustrated, Haruto summoned Kon to help him search. While they were discussing the matter, a girl suddenly appeared. Kon was shocked because he couldn't sense her presence at all. Strangely, she knew everything about Haruto, but what she had come for was Kon. She loved small, cute things, but her cold tone scared Kon into backing away. Without saying another word, she left. Confused, Haruto brushed it off and continued his search for Suzuka. After a while, he found her in the library. After a bit of playful teasing, Haruto asked why she had enrolled in the academy. Suzuka honestly shared that it was a punishment. The Onmyu agency believed she could be rehabilitated, so they sent her here. She had already buried her brother's body and had her spiritual powers sealed. She said she would have truly died if the plan had gone smoothly, but someone interfered and caused it to fail. Haruto, still unaware that it was him, smiled brightly, while Suzuka was secretly stirred up by him. Through their conversation, Haruto still hadn't realized that Natsume was a boy, so he was somewhat relieved and even promised to introduce that girl to Natsume when he had the chance. That night, Suzuka continued to be tormented by guilt. Haruto had forgiven her even after she had given everything up, while she had still harmed Hokuto. Her remorse consumed her night after night. The next day, even though he knew Suzuka hadn't realized it yet, Natsume still disguised herself. When Suzuka came looking in class, Haruto quickly pulled her away. Out in the hallway, Suzuka said she wanted to meet Natsume, but Haruto told her it wasn't the right time. So every time she came looking, Natsume had to run and hide, whether in the library or in the classroom. She never got a moment's rest. By the afternoon, both of them were completely exhausted. The following day, Taoji suggested they come clean to Suzuka instead of continuing to run away like this. That afternoon, after school, Haruto took Suzuka to a fast food place. He began by asking her how she felt about her time at the academy. He already knew she didn't talk to anyone there besides him. She said she had to maintain her image as a celestial general. Haruto didn't want her to live like that. After all, she no longer had any burdens about her brother. Why not take this chance to start over? But she said she still couldn't let go because she regretted killing Hokuto. Realizing the source of her anxiety all this time, Haruto reassured her that Hokuto was still fine, it's just that she hadn't met the current owner of that Shikigami yet. Besides, her death was caused by his own weakness, so he didn't blame anyone. Suzuka burst into tears, as if finally releasing everything. Then she confidently declared to Haruto that she would create a new self. As she was speaking, she noticed someone spying on them. She used her spiritual power to pull them out, and it was Natsume. It only took a few seconds for Suzuka to realize she was the nun from that time. As if discovering a huge secret, Suzuka now had a new game to enjoy. Taking advantage of it, she began tormenting Natsume, doing everything she could to tire her out. Unable to let this go on, Haruto tried to talk to Suzuka, but since he was in the weaker position, all he could do was sit and listen. Then came the days where they were ordered around like servants. Neither Haruto nor Natsume could escape it. They barely made it to Sunday alive. The blank stares and exhausted moods were clear on Haruto's face. Not giving them any time to rest, Suzuka appeared again, demanding both of them take her to their rooms. First was Haruto's room. Taoji showed up because he heard the noise. Upon entering, Suzuka began criticizing Haruto's room as plain and old-fashioned, with nothing special. She pointed out the tiger statue and tiger print jacket, saying it looked like something a childish brat would own. Bored, Suzuka decided to move on to Natsume's room. Naturally, this couldn't be allowed. Natsume tried to run, but was quickly caught by Suzuka. After binding Natsume with Ofuda, the three curious people stepped into her room. It was, of course, under high-level security, but that meant nothing to Suzuka. She easily used her skills as an onmyoji to unlock it. Inside, all three were surprised because it looked far too normal compared to Natsume's extreme reaction. Still suspicious, Suzuka suggested they search the place. Her attention was drawn to the wardrobe, which had an even higher level security spell than the entrance. Excited, Suzuka began unlocking it. Seeing how far things were going, Haruto and Taoji left. Outside, Natsume was desperately crawling in to stop them. Haruto summoned Kon to free her. As soon as the bindings were cut, Natsume grabbed Kon and threw her straight at Suzuka, causing the room to explode. Not stopping there, Natsume summoned Hokuto to chase everyone out. The next morning, when Haruto woke up, he saw Kon lying next to him. The alarm woke her up too. Just as he was wondering why she was there, Kon realized she had lost her ability to turn invisible. On the way to school, Haruto told the group everything. Taoji guessed that she had lost the ability when Natsume threw her at Suzuka. Haruto planned to ask Jin for help. But both Suzuka and Natsume brushed off their responsibility and left. Haruto didn't understand what was going on. Taoji said that girls all have their secrets. As for Kon, since she could no longer turn invisible, she couldn't follow Haruto around to protect him. Feeling down, she confided in the tiger statue. But then she made a decision. Even if she couldn't turn invisible, she could still protect him in secret. Saying that, she threw on Haruto's jacket as a disguise, sniffed it a few times, then ran off to the academy, secretly watching Haruto through the window. At lunch, the trio Haruto, Taoji, and Natsume discussed how to solve Kon's problem. Kon hid under the table to eavesdrop but couldn't hear anything. Kon's tail accidentally bumped into someone, causing them to scream. Panic broke out as Kon ran around, crashing into even more people. She dashed out of the building, and a few students caught a glimpse of something that looked like a tiger. Kon planned to return home, but on the way, she ran into Tenma again. Not wanting to cause more trouble, she knocked him out. The noise drew students outside to investigate, and once again, they caught a vague glimpse of what seemed to be a tiger. Gradually, everyone began to believe it was a real tiger, and panic spread. The school issued an emergency announcement, and even the Exorcism Bureau and Zenjinro rushed to the scene. Seeing the situation escalating, Kon hurriedly looked for an escape route. As soon as Tenma regained consciousness, he was knocked out again. When a teacher found him, he assumed the boy had been attacked by the tiger. Principal called in teacher Jin. Zenjinro considered the case serious because the tiger had apparently broken through the school's barrier. He immediately ordered a thorough search of the campus. Meanwhile, Kon was terrified and hid in a tree. Suzuka was the first to find her and, feeling responsible for indirectly causing the situation, decided to help Kon escape. Their plan? They both hid inside Haruto's coat and tried to sneak away. However, Zenjinro quickly discovered them and attacked without hesitation, forcing them to flee. Later, Suzuka left the coat behind as a decoy. The two were overjoyed, thinking they had successfully escaped until they found Teacher Jin had been standing there since the afternoon. Haruto's coat had also been shredded by Zenjinro's attack. That afternoon, both Haruto and Suzuka were scolded by Teacher Jin for failing to properly manage their Shikigami. He had already resolved Kon's issue. Suzuka, too, was happy, having made some cheerful memories. Not long after, Haruto's class was given a special training camp. Haruto and Natsume seemed the most excited, happy to get away from the noisy, exhausting city and especially from the girl who always tormented them. Teacher Jin reminded them that this wasn't a vacation and would be grueling. Still, the two didn't care as long as they were having fun. As for Taoji, he was still undergoing treatment from Haruto's father and would join them later. When Haruto and Natsume arrived at the campsite, they were filled with despair upon seeing Suzuka there. Teacher Jin explained she had been given special permission to participate in the training. Training soon began. The class was instructed to use simple Shikigami to perform tasks like chopping wood and cooking. This was how they were taught to control their spiritual power. Though there were difficulties, everything went smoothly. Kyoko and Natsume continued to outperform the rest. At one point, Suzuka finished making curry and brought it to Haruto to try. It looked more like hot pot broth than curry. Naturally, if Haruto refused to eat, Suzuka would blackmail him using Natsume's secrets. Just then, Taoji arrived to save him and asked Suzuka to step outside for a chat. After the meal, students had to use their Shikigami to clean up and wash dishes. While Haruto was carrying a pot, he accidentally dropped it down a staircase and unexpectedly ran into the cold, aloof girl from earlier. He approached and started a conversation. Upon learning he was a Shikigami, the girl pretended not to know him and tried to leave. But Haruto took Kon out to entice her to stay, letting her touch Kon's tail. In return, she let Haruto ask any question. He wanted to know how to control a Shikigami from a great distance. She replied that only a genius could do such a thing. Meanwhile, Taoji had shown Suzuka his demon form, a yokai summoned 2 years ago by the leader of the terrorist group Syndicate Shido, who happened to be Suzuka's father. Taoji wasn't there to curse her father. He wanted to borrow her strength. Since Natsume was being targeted by Yaku's followers, he needed to protect her and everyone else. Afterwards, Suzuka shared with Haruto's group what Teacher Harada had once told them about the Syndicate. There were rumors of spies within the Onmyu agency, and that demand was somehow connected to the organization. Natsume asked if she really was Yaku reincarnated. Suzuka wasn't sure but believed it could be true. She had read her father's report, which mentioned that one of his subordinates had been investigating certain forbidden spells. One detail in the report stood out: the Crow Cloak spell and artifact once worn by the real Yaku. If obtained, it could confirm whether Natsume was truly his reincarnation. The cloak was currently under the Onmyu agency's protection, and they could try asking Kyoko's father to borrow it, though the odds of success were slim. Additionally, Taoji asked for Suzuka's help again, but she refused, not wanting to drag anyone else into the matter. That night, Mr. Jin and the principal sat down to talk. Of course, they had already overheard Haruto's group's entire plan. Mr. Jin still wouldn't intervene early. He wanted to see where things would lead. He also revealed that the Crow Cloak in the Onmyoji department was a fake, and that the real one was actually at the academy. Meanwhile, back at the dorm, Natsume couldn't sleep after what had happened that afternoon. Haruto reassured her that no matter what, he believed she was still herself. She then went to bathe. Since she was a girl disguising herself as a boy, she had to bathe alone at night in the boys' bathroom. While relaxing, she heard voices from the girls' bathroom. Suzuka and Kyoko were there, having fun chatting and bathing. They even talked about romance. Kyoko knew Suzuka liked Haruto. Though Suzuka didn't admit it, she didn't deny it either. Kyoko then asked her about Natsume. Suzuka recalled what she had done during the summer festival and said she really hated Natsume. The next day, Natsume's father came to meet with the principal. He brought a Shikigami with him, which meant something big was coming. As for Natsume, she confided in Taoji that maybe Suzuka hated her. First, Taoji advised her to sort out her feelings for Haruto before dealing with anything else. At that moment, Haruto was called out by Kyoko to meet her alone. She wanted to confess to him on Suzuka's behalf. But Suzuka hurried over and tried to stop her. It was too late, though, as he had already heard everything. However, Haruto didn't give a reply to the confession. Instead, he shared the story of his close friend Hokuto, how he had loved her and couldn't accept anyone else. Now, he had to find out who was controlling Hokuto. Kyoko guessed that the person behind it must be someone very skilled, and the only person she could think of was Natsume. Haruto denied it because their personalities were completely different. But by coincidence, Natsume and Taoji overheard that conversation. After training ended, on the bus ride home, Haruto looked at Natsume, who had dozed off from exhaustion, and suddenly noticed the hair ribbon she was wearing. It looked very familiar. In the days that followed, Haruto kept thinking about Hokuto, and then Natsume's image started to appear in his thoughts. He gradually accepted the truth, but still didn't dare to face Natsume directly. Seeing his friend constantly avoiding things like this, Taoji knew nothing would move forward, so he decided to force the two to talk things out directly. After class, the whole group left together except for Tenma, who went off on his own. As an heir to a family line, he had a lot to worry about, and what concerned him now was whether he was capable enough to take over the family's corporation, a company developing artificial Shikigami to support Onmyoji. While deep in thought, he found Hirata standing in front of his house. When he asked, Hirata said he was there on behalf of the Criminal Investigation Bureau to question Tenma's mother and the prototype Shikigami she was developing. Tenma said she could be met at her company. Hearing that, Hirata asked to take his leave first. Before he left, he placed a talisman on Tenma. Meanwhile, at the Onmyoji Bureau, the man sent an owl directly in front of Zenjiro, announcing that he would steal the crow cloak tomorrow. Immediately, a meeting was convened. Amami, Iwao, Miyoshi, Zenjiro, Bond, and Reggie, 6 of the 12 heavenly generals, were present. They began planning to strengthen defenses and capture Demand at all costs. The minister would have the final say. After the meeting, Zenjiro sought out Iwao and told him that they should focus on reinforcing security at the school instead, because the cloak there was fake, the real one was at the academy. Iwao replied that Zenjiro should just worry about his own part and that the minister probably knew more than they did. He was certain there was already a plan for the possibility that Demand would attack the academy instead of the bureau. After the meeting, Amami also informed the principal of the situation, warning her to be cautious because Demand might try to seize the cloak. She then called Mr. Jin. Meanwhile, the protagonist was still lost in memories of the days with Hokuto, from the happy moments to when they hurt each other. The more he thought about it, the hotter Haruto's heart burned knowing Hokuto was Natsume. She, too, was having similar thoughts about him. Both of them decided that they would explain everything to each other the next day. And so, the next day came. Taoji left early to give them space. As they walked together, Haruto was the first to speak, asking how she was doing. But the awkwardness and embarrassment between them made the situation tense. Just when he finally mustered the courage to ask if Natsume was Hokuto, the white-haired girl appeared. It was only now that she introduced herself as Suzu, the third-year senior of both of them. With the appearance of the petite upperclassman, neither of them could say a word. In the classroom, they discovered that Mr. Jin had left and other teachers were taking over his classes. During lunch, the group gathered again. Suzuka informed them that the practical teachers had left the academy due to an emergency. Then, news broke out the Onmyoji Bureau was being attacked by a massive number of necromancers. When Demand's vehicle appeared, Haruto's body reacted violently. The old man arrived at the academy and met with the principal. After a brief and unproductive conversation, he struck first, summoning a swarm of dark projectiles to attack. Meanwhile, the necromancers attacked from outside. The principal released 2 stone lion statues to block the path. The situation at the academy was now on high alert. Haruto told Khan to retrieve his staff. The school began evacuating students to the arena. However, Haruto's group had already caught Demand's attention. Though the barrier was protecting them well, Demand had already accounted for this. He activated a charm that Hirata had previously placed on Tenma, destroying the barrier from the inside. As a result, the necromancers stormed into the academy in large numbers and surrounded Haruto's group. Kyoko set up a defensive barrier. Kon arrived just in time with the weapons. At that moment, Tenma was completely engulfed in despair. Not only had he failed to help his friends, but now he had even put the school in danger. However, no one blamed him. He had done well in his support role, and no one criticized him. Encouraged by everyone's words, Tenma gradually regained his will. From afar, the principal called for the group to move to the rooftop. She would wait there. With this information, Taoji entered his demon form to clear the path. As they ran into the hallway, they encountered another group blocking the way. Haruto handled the front, Kyoko covered the rear, and finally Suzuka used her spell to blow them all away. As they continued running upward, they met the principal's cat, which opened a secret passage leading straight to the rooftop. The necromancers appeared again, forcing Natsume to summon Hokuto to clear them out. The group made it to the top and met the principal. There, they unexpectedly found a Fukan altar. Once everyone was inside, the principal set up a protective barrier. Just as she finished, Daman arrived. The barrier seemed solid, but with just a light touch, he shattered it. Natsume commanded Hokuto to attack, but Daman's necromancers restrained the dragon. Natsume tried to recall Hokuto, but couldn't. He had seized all of its spiritual energy. Daman then thought of making Hokuto his pet. But at that moment, Mr. Jin stepped in to stop him. It was the rematch between the two. In their first fight, Mr. Jin had lost a leg. But this time, he wouldn't run like before. Daman was excited for battle. He unleashed the necromancers to attack. Mr. Jin used advanced spells to repel them. In the smoke and confusion, he flew over to Suzuka and released her seal. Now she had enough spiritual power to create a barrier to protect everyone. Then Mr. Jin returned to the battle. This time, he struck first with a blade, followed by a series of water-based attacks, transforming water into wood, and finally fire. But Daman easily dodged them all. He summoned water to extinguish Mr. Jin's fire and knocked him away. But that was what Mr. Jin intended. When he got close to Hokuto, he shattered the ground around them and freed it, allowing Natsume to recall the dragon. Being deceived twice enraged Daman. Not giving him the chance to cast the next spell, Mr. Jin used the Hyaki Yajo technique to trap him and began attacking step by step. Although caught off guard, Daman still laughed with delight, then countered with a fire attack. Mr. Jin used all his strength to block it, resulting in a massive spiritual explosion. When the smoke cleared, Mr. Jin's hair had turned completely white. Daman, however, turned out not to be human. Shocked by Mr. Jin's power, Daman invited him to join his side. But Mr. Jin, similar to Aniki, was smart and refused. Furious at being rejected, Daman decided to go all out against him, which was exactly what Mr. Jin wanted. As Daman unleashed his full power, Mr. Jin summoned the Tenma clan's Shikigami to suppress his spiritual energy. Then, a magic circle Mr. Jin had prepared earlier lit up, and 5 pillars of light appeared, absorbing all of Daman's energy. Without hesitation, Mr. Jin blasted Daman out of the building along with himself. However, Natsume quickly had Hokuto fly down to rescue him. Even more surprising, despite Daman's body being broken with limbs fractured into pieces, he was still able to fight, and this too had been within the teacher's calculations. The sound of a motorcycle echoed from afar. Zenjiro had been there since morning, chanting a spell as he charged forward, delivering a finishing blow that cut down Daman. At this point, Daman existed only as a spiritual form. Both sides thanked each other for the battle. Zenjiro then said that if Daman agreed to answer a few questions, they would help bring him back to life. However, before he could even open his mouth, his entire body exploded. Harada had activated a technique from afar to completely erase him. After this incident, Master Jin was taken to the hospital. Although Daman had been mysteriously destroyed, the Crow Cloak was still taken by Natsume's father. Since the academy was under repair, the students had been sent to the Onmyo agency for training, meaning they would now be taught by professionals. Even though the battle was over, the burning excitement of combat still lingered inside Haruto. During one training session, Haruto tried to perform the 100 Demon Descent spell that Master Jin had used, but failed, resulting in his defeat. The person who fought him was Ichu, who criticized Haruto for recklessly using techniques without fully mastering the incantations, saying it was extremely dangerous. Natsume stepped in and confronted him, saying he shouldn't pretend to be strict or concerned about the students if they truly cared. They wouldn't have let the students face Daman alone. After the lesson ended, Haruto and Natsume stopped by the academy and went up to the rooftop to examine the ritual altar again. Once there, they sensed someone's presence. Haruto had used fire to illuminate the surroundings, and right in the center of the altar, they found a girl. She looked radiant upon seeing them and already knew who they were. She introduced herself as Takiko, also a student of the academy, saying she had just been curious about the altar and came to take a look. Though she claimed to be a student, this girl knew quite a lot about the Tsuchimikado family as well as the academy itself. Among the information Takiko shared, she mentioned that the academy was founded by Yaku, and that documents related to him were still stored there. The principal, who used to be Yaku's student, was fully aware of this. Not knowing whether the information was true, the next day Haruto and Natsume invited Taoji to the academy to help search for Yaku's records. The three of them went to the library, which was now in disarray after the recent attack, and started organizing and searching for information. They searched all the way into the afternoon but found nothing. Haruto and Taoji did, however, find Master Jin's old graduation yearbook from when he was a student, and everything seemed fun and cheerful until Haruto spotted the name Ryu. This was the same name Suzuka had mentioned a friend of her father who had been researching forbidden techniques. To Haruto's shock, this person had been a friend of Master Jin. The next day, the group set off to visit Master Jin. Suzuka couldn't believe she had overlooked such an important detail. On the way, a car stopped near them. It was Suzu. Haruto asked where she was going, but Suzu only responded with unrelated comments. He then introduced her to the group, and she already knew all their names. Haruto noticed that the driver was a Shikigami, and in the back seat was a child who looked very familiar. The boy tried to speak, but Suzu quickly covered his mouth and drove off. Meanwhile, the bureau chief had come to visit Master Jin. Aside from checking on him, he also revealed their next plan. They would force the leader of the syndicate to reveal himself. After the recent events, extremist groups had also begun targeting the students. The Onmyo agency had already arranged proper protection for them, so Master Jin didn't need to worry. Just as he finished his announcement, Haruto's group arrived. The bureau chief then left, telling Master Jin to take care and wait for good news. Afterwards, Master Jin explained the plan to eliminate the syndicate and mentioned that there would be someone protecting the group in the future. According to the Bureau's predictions, demand had not been completely destroyed, hence the need for caution. Haruto's group then brought up their concerns. They mentioned a red-haired student named Takiko. Master Jin confirmed that she was indeed a student at the school, and that the information she provided was likely accurate. Continuing their questions, Haruto brought up the name Ryu. Upon hearing it, Master Jin winced in pain. Suzuka said that Ryu had participated in Yaku-related research. Master Jin added that Ryu had indeed been his classmate, but it seemed they had misunderstood something. That person's real name is Suzu, an extremely dangerous and difficult individual. The teacher advised them to be cautious. Hearing that name made Haruto think of that third-year upperclassman, but nothing was certain yet. The next day, the one assigned to protect the group appeared. It happened to be Ryuji. The Amami Investigation Bureau had begun taking action, apprehending spies who had infiltrated their ranks. The chief ordered them to pay special attention to capturing this Maki individual. Back with Haruto's group, Ryuji left behind his familiar, Shaver, to watch over them. According to Kyoko, that thing had been banned by the Onmyo Bureau, yet Ryuji still dared to use it. Haruto didn't know why, but when he looked into its eyes, he felt startled. Later, while going to the restroom, he coincidentally ran into Ryuji again. Ryuji stopped him to talk and asked about the incident with Old Man Daman. He wanted to know if the man was truly dead. Haruto wasn't sure, but he didn't think someone like that would die so easily. Ryuji pondered that if Daman was still alive, they'd suffered a major loss. He then asked Haruto how he felt witnessing that battle. The two of them ended up discussing the battle for a long time, with Ryuji answering all the questions Haruto raised. In the end, Ryuji advised Haruto to become an Onmyo teacher rather than an ordinary Onmyoji. If Haruto chose to become someone who only follows orders, then Ryuji wouldn't show him any mercy. After saying that, Ryuji walked away. Meanwhile, the Investigation Bureau was still working to suppress the followers of Yaku. Maki delivered a fiery speech to rouse his believers into risking their lives in resistance. However, the disparity in power was too great, and the followers were driven back and subdued. Maki ordered the release of flares to create smoke, but the followers were still captured or eliminated. Facing a desperate situation, Maki intended to summon a demon to unleash a spirit disaster as a means of escape. However, before he could do anything, he was assassinated by Harada, who then took the talisman prepared to trigger the disaster. Harada reported to his informant that all the spies had been completely eliminated. Chief Amami then arrived at his location. The chief had long suspected him of being a spy. Although he regretted having to deal with someone as hardworking as Harada, he said he couldn't forgive anyone who had stained their hands with innocent blood. Just by speaking in a stern tone, he made Harada freeze in place. Harada tried to use a talisman spell, but it dissolved before it could reach Amami. The chief began to approach him. Cornered, Harada had no choice but to play his trump card. He summoned 2 dead familiars known as Morning Guardians. Both were extremely powerful, forcing Amami to fight seriously. The chief summoned 2 warrior spirits to buy time while he chanted a spell. Though the warrior spirits had larger bodies, they were no match. Both Morning Guardians easily defeated them with overwhelming power. Just as Amami finished chanting, he ordered an attack straight at Harada, but one of the Guardians had the ability to cancel spells. Even so, Amami managed to land a blow on Harada from behind. Just when it seemed he had won, Harada summoned a 3rd Morning Guardian to shield him. At this point, the chief seemed destined to lose. Before dying at his hands, Amami asked to hear a few answers. What was the true purpose of the syndicate? Harada claimed that he was a follower of Yaku, but unlike the mindless crowd outside, they only wanted to revive Yaku to receive a wish. The original purpose of founding the Yaku Society was to fulfill the mission that Yaku couldn't complete in his lifetime. The syndicate was an organization established by Yaku's disciples and divided into 2 factions. One was the syndicate itself, and the other was an academy for training Onmyoji. The academy was founded based on Yaku's wish to enhance the abilities of exorcist Onmyoji, while the syndicate carried out Yaku's other ambitions. The chief asked what those ambitions were. As Harada was about to answer, he suddenly sensed something was wrong. Why was he answering these questions so freely? But by the time he realized it, it was too late. The chief had used his fan to create a separate domain, isolating Harada from the Morning Guardians. Truly, the older the ginger, the spicier it gets. Afterward, the chief knocked him unconscious and took him away. Then, something unexpected happened. Harada turned into Tekiko. Back with Haruto's group at the Exorcist Bureau, they were discussing how the remnants of the syndicate were targeting each of them. Just as they finished, Itu appeared. He no longer hid anything and revealed that he, too, was a follower of Yaku. Just as he was about to do something, Shaver suddenly rushed in and slashed him to death. In his dying moments, Echu grabbed the staff, and a massive amount of dark energy erupted all around. Following that, numerous high-level demons appeared. Haruto said they needed to regroup with the others. Natsume summoned Hokuto to clear a path, and Haruto also unleashed a spell, but it still wasn't enough to defeat the monster. They fought while retreating, but the number of enemies was overwhelming. Fortunately, the Exorcist team arrived to help. At this moment, Shaver went berserk. Affected by the dark energy, he had turned into a disaster. He went on a mad killing spree and targeted Haruto. Hokuto rushed in and dragged him away. Haruto's group reunited with Kyoko. Shaver came back looking for them, but Hokuto couldn't enter the house. As he approached, Tenma attacked from above, followed by Taoji, and then Suzuka. The whole group joined forces to attack, but the more pain he felt, the more fiercely Shaver fought. They took turns wounding him, and then Natsume summoned a dragon to attack. In the process, Shaver pierced Hokuto through the head, causing him to vanish in agony. Natsume was also injured. It seemed like he was targeting Natsume, so Haruto took her and fled. The others stayed behind to hold him off. Haruto hid Natsume in a storage room where many other students were also taking refuge. Just then, Shaver arrived. He lunged at Natsume. Haruto tried to defend her, but was knocked away. Natsume was also hit, causing her clothes to be torn, exposing her secret. Haruto tried to stop it, but kept getting beaten. He could only watch as the madmen tormented Natsume, forcing her to fight. At that moment, she was both despairing and ashamed, completely losing hope. Haruto was extremely furious, but he had to keep a cool head. He began to concentrate, causing his seal to glow. Following what Ryoji had taught him, Haruto finally managed to sense the spirits. and just as Shaver tried to attack him, Haruto calmly used a water spell to blind him, then used a wood spell to bind his legs, followed by relentless fire attacks. He summoned Khan to strike and discovered that Shaver's weakness was fire spirits, but he needed more spiritual energy. Haruto pulled him out into the courtyard to fight more freely. Natsume held him back long enough for Haruto to perform the Hayaki Yajo spell again. This time, he successfully suppressed Shaver's spiritual energy. Then he absorbed dark energy from a nearby demon to create an extremely powerful fire spirit, and with that, he finished Shaver off, forcing him back into the sword. Afterward, Haruto explained at length the reason why Natsume had to disguise herself. The one who had the hardest time accepting it was probably Kyoko. As for the chief, he and Iwao had gone to meet with their superiors. For now, they had only dealt with part of the syndicate, not its root. Amami also reported that someone had controlled Takiko to impersonate Harada. Aside from using Shikigami and killing Maki, this girl was very mysterious. Very few families could use Shikigami, making it rare. If the cultists could control Shikigami, it would be very dangerous. This would truly be a problem if they didn't clarify things. At this moment, his boss no longer hid anything. He summoned Takiko and introduced her as the last descendant of Shido. Amami started questioning his superior for associating with someone tied to the syndicate, but his boss didn't explain and said it was the decision of Kyoko's clan. Amami was very angry that everyone had kept this from him, but he believed the principal still didn't know. If she did, she would never allow them to do this. After saying that, he also left the investigation bureau and burned his fan. Then Amami's superior began planning Yaku's resurrection. The next day, upon returning to school, rumors about Natsume began to spread. Aside from Kyoko, most of the group members accepted the situation. They discussed finding a chance to explain it to her. When Natsume arrived at class and faced everyone, she bowed her head and apologized for lying to them. But no one blamed her, they thanked her, saying that because of her, they had survived. Everything went better than Haruto had expected, except for Kyoko. After class ended, Haruto went to talk to her. He hurriedly tried to explain Natsume's reasons, but Kyoko interrupted him. She reminded him of what she had said before that when she was little. She had made a promise to Natsume. Actually, the person she met back then was you, not her, and the one she liked was you. Hearing her words, Haruto gradually remembered that they did indeed play together when they were little. Kyoko said nothing and walked away. She went to the cafeteria, where she had originally planned to apologize to Natsume for going too far the day before, but things had turned out like this. Just then, Suzuka came to find her. The girl consoled Kyoko's troubled heart, saying that things didn't need to escalate this far, and advised her that if she was still feeling unsettled, she should just speak up to them. Conveniently, there would be a fireworks festival tomorrow, so Kyoko could use that to resolve everything. Kyoko happily hugged Suzuka in thanks. As for Haruto, that night he was deeply troubled, having once again forgotten the promise he made when he was a child. The next morning, he received a message from his father saying he was safe. Still confused, Haruto went outside to the cafeteria, where he heard the news that his family's mansion had been set on fire. 6 hours before the fire, Iwao had come, representing the Onmyoji Bureau, to arrest Natsume's father, the current head of the Tsuchimikado family, and demanded that he hand over the box containing the crow cloak. Naturally, he refused. When they tried to use force, Haruto's father and mother stood in their way. When words failed, violence prevailed. After learning that Chief Amami had gone missing, Master Jin also began preparing for discharge. While he was getting ready, Daman appeared once again. Now reincarnated as a child, Daman came back because he hadn't answered any of Jin's questions the last time. After thinking for a moment, Jin asked first whether the explosion that killed Daman was caused by the syndicate. Daman confirmed it. Then he asked who was behind them, and Daman revealed that the one behind them was connected to the Onmyoji Bureau. Thirdly, Jin asked why Daman needed the crow cloak. Daman answered that it was because his disciple needed it Suzu. With that, Daman left, saying those questions were too trivial, so Jin could still claim the reward for defeating him another time. If needed, just reach out. Back to the fire incident, it was reported that all 3 members of the Tsuchimikado family had gone missing. As for Kyoko, just when she was about to go invite Haruto and Natsume, Takiko approached her. Takiko then asked Kyoko to take her to find Natsume. A while later, after meeting her, Kyoko had already left. Takiko explained she came to visit the school. Hearing that, the three of them showed her around. While they were having fun, Natsume was called away by a teacher. When Takiko curiously asked about it, Haruto told her about the fire, which even Takiko found surprising. When Natsume returned from the teacher's office, she said she still hadn't heard anything about her father's whereabouts. At that moment, no one knew where Takiko got her information, but she assured them that both families were safe. The fire was caused by the Onmyoji Bureau's belligerents. She apologized on their behalf and revealed that she, too, had ties to Yaku. She was a follower, but unlike the foolish ones out there, she only wanted to be friends with Haruto's group. As she got emotional, she wanted to have a match. Responding to this strange girl, Natsume agreed. When the match began, they first battled with elements, then moved on to bird fights. Since Hokuto was still injured, she only used basic magic. Seeing that Natsume wasn't using Yaku's spells, Takiko grew disappointed and got serious. She began chanting a spell that didn't affect Natsume, but made Haruto on the spectator stand writhe in agony, as if many hammers were pounding on his head. Just when Takiko was about to complete the spell, Master Jin appeared, suppressed Haruto, and temporarily stopped the match. He invited her and her Shikigami to return since the academy tour had ended, but if they insisted on fighting, he wouldn't hesitate. Takiko chose to apologize and withdrew. Turning to Haruto, Jin asked when this condition started. Haruto replied that it was since Jin's battle. Jin asked about the talisman on his eye and learned it was from Natsume so he could see spirits. After checking, Jin found nothing wrong, but the condition was very unusual. He asked Suzuka to examine him further. Looking around, Jin noticed someone was missing. Taoji said that Kyoko and Haruto had a falling out after learning the truth about Natsume. They then explained everything to Jin. Not knowing how to advise on such matters, he simply said she should be more honest with her feelings, and if she felt guilty, then go apologize to Kyoko. Taking his advice, she immediately ran off to find her. When they met, Natsume bowed her head and apologized for having kept things from her friend. She revealed all the feelings bottled up inside about the burden of her family, and how Haruto was her only friend, so she had developed a habit of isolating herself without realizing she had unintentionally hurt Kyoko. Kyoko also opened up about her own feelings, how, back then, she thought Natsume was the one she liked, and how Natsume constantly avoiding her had deeply hurt her. After the two girls had said everything they had been hiding, they made up with each other. On Jin-sensei's side, he learned some details about Takiko from the principal. During wartime, Tsuchimikado was honored as the king of Onmyoji, and the Kurahashi and Salma clans were his vassals. After the war ended in defeat, the Salma clan vanished, and Takiko is the last remaining descendant. With the disappearance of Chief Amami and the burning of the Tsuchimikado residence, it's not hard to suspect that the minister Kyoko's father might be involved. Jin-sensei also mentioned that Natsume being a girl shocked the principal, because the prophecy stated that Yaku's reincarnation would be a boy. Meanwhile, Haruto resolved everything with Kyoko with a slap from her. It was like she released everything inside, and she asked him to the fireworks festival the next day. As for Takiko, she returned to meet Kyoko's father. There, she reunited with her two Shikigami, Chihiro, who was thought to be dead, and another Shido, the leader of the undead army from the spirit disaster. Shido had already obtained the raven cloak from Natsume's father. Takiko, still carefree, believed that once she made Natsume reincarnate into Yaku, they could become friends. She then called Kyoko using Kyoko's father's phone, asking her to help arrange a meeting with Natsume. She used the excuse of making peace, but in reality, they planned to put the cloak on Natsume to reincarnate Yaku. Conveniently, they would be going to the festival together, so Kyoko invited Natsume along and accidentally revealed that Natsume was a girl. On the morning of the fireworks festival, Haruto and Natsume spent time together. They ate shaved ice at the park and talked about everyday things. So caught up in conversation, Haruto let the shaved ice drip onto his leg and ran to rinse it off at a nearby faucet. In that moment, the white-haired man appeared again. He told Natsume that the raven cloak had been stolen, and that this was a life or death issue. If things got out of hand, she should seek out Suzu, she would help her. After saying that, he vanished. Meanwhile, Takiko confirmed with Kyoko's father that Natsume was indeed a girl. But according to the prophecy, Yaku's reincarnation was supposed to be male. Apparently, Natsume's father had foreseen this and hid the true reincarnation of Yaku, even willing to sacrifice his daughter to prevent Yaku's return. Enraged, Takiko decided she would reincarnate Yaku herself. She suspected Haruto was the real reincarnation because he was the only one who reacted to her spell back then. At the fireworks festival, Haruto's group was having fun. As night fell, they gathered to watch the fireworks. While enjoying the show, everyone suddenly pushed Haruto to go buy drinks, and Natsume offered to go with him. The group was clearly setting up a moment for the two of them. When they were alone, and just as Natsume was about to confess that she was Hokuto, the one who had always been by his side, Takiko suddenly appeared. She then began the reincarnation ritual. Haruto started writhing in pain. Natsume tried to stop it, but was blocked by Chihiro. She called out Hokuto to fight, but he was far too powerful. With just one slap, the dragon fainted. The others arrived to help, but the situation didn't improve. Takiko then revealed Natsume's father's plan and exposed that Haruto was the true reincarnation of Yaku. She then used the Raven Cloak to complete the ritual. However, Taoji's spiritual energy began to go berserk, and the cloak wasn't just any cloak, it was a shikigami. Haruto merged with it and lost control. He shot up into the sky, flying wildly. Natsume quickly chased after him. Haruto could no longer control himself, attacking anyone who approached him. Everyone else also flew in to help. Natsume tried to think of a way, recalling the words of the white-haired man and her father's plan, then realized Haruto was originally an onmyoji. Her father had sealed his powers to keep him from being exposed, and her ritual had only partially undone the seal, causing Haruto's spiritual power to become unstable. Now she just needed to complete the rest of the ritual so Haruto could control his power. Thinking that, she rushed toward Haruto, ignoring all his attacks. She managed to get close and completed the ritual, helping Haruto control the robe. But she was too badly injured and passed away, only having time to apologize and confess her feelings to him. In a dream, Natsume met Hokuto again, and the two talked for a while before fading away. Haruto, in despair, tried every talisman he could find to save Natsume, but it was all in vain. Then Haruto thought of the most extreme method, the Taisen ritual. Taoji tried to stop him, saying this had gone far beyond their control. The Onmyoji Bureau also appeared and tried to arrest the group, but now Haruto was like a beast with nothing left to lose. He held Natsume and ran away. This forced Taoji and Suzuka to chase after him. The two followed him to an abandoned building. Haruto begged Suzuka to help him, but she refused because it went against everything Haruto had once said. Taoji also tried to persuade him to accept it, to let her rest in peace. Just then, Shido appeared. Suzuka panicked upon seeing her supposedly dead father still alive. After learning that he was actually Takiko's shikigami, Haruto and Taoji rushed to attack, but he was far too powerful and beat them both to the ground. He began inviting Haruto to join their side. Of course, if Haruto joined them, Shido would help him carry out the Taisen ritual. He didn't give Haruto much time to think, since Natsume's soul would soon vanish from this world. Haruto had to make a quick decision. After saying that, Shido left. The Onmyoji Bureau surrounded the three. Haruto's parents were shocked to hear of Natsume's death. This hadn't been part of their plan. Back at the academy, only Haruto had been taken while the others were released. They returned and reported everything to the headmistress, who wanted to go examine Haruto and Natsume's body. But Iwao arrived with news. The man explained that Haruto's case was beyond the academy's authority, so the bureau would take over. However, the headmistress asked him to allow Jin-sensei to visit Haruto, since he used to work for the bureau. Jin then went to see Natsume's body. He deeply regretted not being able to help her. Taoji's group didn't sit around waiting. Knowing the bureau was the syndicate's base, they planned to rescue Haruto. They didn't know how yet, but time was short. Natsume's soul couldn't hold out much longer. Everyone agreed to help Taoji. The plan was to pretend to go home, then regroup at the bureau to continue their planning without drawing suspicion. At that time, Kyoko experienced a strange sensation when she saw Tenma glowing, but soon ignored it. Meanwhile, after visiting the body, Jin-sensei convinced Old Man Demand to join him in attacking the Onmyoji Bureau. As for Taoji's group, Tenma didn't show up. They didn't blame him, as he wasn't good at fighting and might only get in the way. The current problem was, they didn't know where Haruto was being held. Elsewhere, Jin and Daman had arrived at the bureau first. Inside, Haruto had woken up, but now he was like a soulless shell, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, a spider Shikigami outside the door tried to communicate with him. The two exchanged some information before Chihiro came to take him away. He was then brought to meet Kyoko's father, Genji. Looking around, Haruto noticed one person missing, the one who had caused all of this. Chihiro said Takiko was deeply shocked by Natsume's death, so they had to let her sleep for a long time. Getting to the point, he asked if they really could bring Natsume back. Of course, they could on the condition that he joined their side. Not as Haruto, but as the reincarnation of Yaku. Actually, that wasn't entirely accurate. Genji explained that since Haruto hadn't fully inherited Yaku's memories, he couldn't use his spells. Instead, he would be joining them as Haruto, the heir of the Tsuchimikado family. He recounted that after the Pacific War, Yaku single-handedly created many different types of magic to help the students. However, he did not do it alone. He was aided by the religious sects and the World Council, who provided him with knowledge to complete various types of spells. These contributors became the branch families of the three clans, the Tsuchimikado, Kyoko's family, and the Salma. Now, they lack nothing except for a king. The three clans will continue Yaku's mission, and they need him to cooperate and lead the Tsuchimikado clan. Before he could reply, an alarm sounded outside. Old Daman had initiated the battle first. As he was releasing his monsters, a massive fire erupted and burned them all. This was Iwa's arrival. The two were about to duel, while Master Jin had entered the bureau and came face to face with Ryuji. Amid the chaos, Taoji's group wanted to sneak in, but Kyoko told them to wait a bit longer, then used her eyes to observe. Inside the bureau, Genji continued inviting him to join. He kept pressuring him to make a decision. Just as he was about to give in and agree, Kon appeared and begged him to reconsider. She believed Natsume would not be happy to be resurrected only to see him like this. She reminded him of all they had been through together, the battles, the joys, and the sorrows, things Haruto would never experience if he sided with Genji. But Haruto believed only they could bring Natsume back. Kon countered, saying if they could do it, then so could Haruto. Didn't Yaku already perform the Taisen ritual? Haruto kept refusing because he had no memories of Yaku. Kon then shouted, didn't he say he would do anything to bring Natsume back? Now was the time. Haruto suddenly awakened to everything and decided not to follow Genji. He would bring Natsume back with his own hands. Seeing things weren't going anywhere, Shido decided to capture Haruto. Just then, Amami's spider appeared at the door and called for Haruto to summon the crow cloak, saying he had already lifted its seal. But before it could arrive, Shido attacked Haruto. Kon tried to defend him but failed, and Amami's assistance was also neutralized by Shido. At that moment, General Taoji appeared outside. Returning to the battle with Old Daman when Tenma returned, he reunited with Sister Suzu. She had chosen him as her pawn to win this time. To destroy an empire, start from its foundation. She gave him a black card and took advantage of his naturally faint presence to infiltrate easily. He only needed to plug the card into the system to destroy the Bureau's entire foundation. As he went deeper into the Bureau, Tenma encountered obstacles, mainly staff. Looking around, he also spotted Amami's surveillance spider. While Tenma was thinking of a plan, Daman's ghosts rushed in and caused chaos, making the staff flee. With the staff gone, the ghosts were the next issue. Tenma was terrified, but he remembered Master Jin's teachings and everyone's encouragement. He focused and cast an invisibility spell, slowly passing through the ghosts and moving further inside. Meanwhile, Old Daman kept spamming ghosts outside, and Iwao burned them all as they came out. As for Master Jin's battle, he had no time to mess with Ryuji. Ryuji used all kinds of flashy spells, but Master Jin neutralized them all, then whipped him relentlessly, forcing Ryuji into defense. When the whipping stopped, the match was over. A thorn trap appeared and pierced Ryuji. At that moment, Tenma reached the place where the crow cloak was sealed and quickly broke the seal. That was also when Amami appeared to rescue Haruto. When Haruto summoned the crow, it even picked up Tenma. Master Jin, seeing playtime was over, threw a flashbang that stunned Ryuji, then left while Ryuji fumed. Taoji charged in on horseback and pulled Haruto away. To be safe, Suzuka cast a protective spell from outside to ensure the two escaped safely. The group successfully fled. Before they could rest, Shido had already tracked them down. At that moment, the crow cloak brought Tenma as well. Shido wanted to take him out first, but was suddenly temporarily blinded. That was thanks to Natsume's father supporting Haruto's group from afar, helping them escape. Shido reported back to Genji, who also informed them that Amami had successfully escaped from prison. The whole group was surprised by Tenma's sudden appearance. He didn't dare take all the credit for himself and said it was thanks to Suzu's support. After that, they discussed their next move. Haruto said he would personally resurrect Natsume and asked for everyone's help, and of course, they all agreed. But then the one who opposed them appeared Zenjiro. He wouldn't allow Haruto to perform the forbidden technique, and Teacher Jin would surely agree with him. The Taisen ritual was like a poisonous blade if it failed. Not only Haruto but also many innocent people would be affected. Even if he succeeded, he would have to pay a heavy price. If not his life, then something else, or he would gradually be corrupted. Zenjiro advised them to give up on resurrecting Natsume and accept that she was already dead. Just then, Kyoko fainted. Her soul was drawn out of her body. She could see everyone's spiritual energy and then began to see thousands upon thousands of dimensions and other worlds. She realized that forbidden techniques were only limitations humans had set for themselves. She also saw Natsume's spiritual energy. She was still waiting for them. They could still save her. After saying that, she passed out. Zenjiro was surprised that Kyoko's clan's astrology powers had awakened at this moment. Teacher Jin now seemed to have made up his mind he would still choose to protect his students. He opened the path for Haruto's group to go. Tenma stayed behind to take care of Kyoko. Now, Haruto's group would go find Natsume's body and meet Suzu to figure out how to revive her. A flock of crows appeared and blocked their way. Suzuka decided to stay behind and hold them off. When the timing was right, Taoji and Haruto split up. Haruto summoned the crow cloak and continued moving. Suddenly, Ryuji showed up to attack him. Still holding a grudge against Teacher Jin, Ryuji intended to take it out on Haruto. Of course, Haruto had no time to fight. He tried to get away, but Ryuji kept chasing and attacking him. Ryuji didn't care about innocent civilians and kept launching attacks, even using a flaming hand to try and grab Haruto. Haruto struggled in vain to escape. Then Kon appeared and attacked Ryuji's hand, forcing him to stop the spell. Annoyed, Ryuji decided to eliminate the little girl, Kon. Haruto wanted to rush in and save her, but the crow blocked him. He had no choice but to take off his cloak to protect Kon, and in exchange, he lost an eye. Ryuji blasted both of them away. Kon still braced herself to protect Haruto. Seeing that, Haruto remembered that the one who vowed to serve him for life was Kon. As his memories returned, Kon regained her power. She released her second seal to fight Ryuji, but Ryuji summoned Shaver to kill Haruto. To prevent that, Kon released her fifth seal, restoring her original strength. She quickly shot down Ryuji and took care of Shaver. But Ryuji still managed to hold her back, giving the lunatic time to charge at Haruto. As the sword was about to strike, a white-haired man appeared and blocked it. He was Kakaoki, one of Yaku's two familiars. Seeing both of Yaku's familiars appear, Ryuji chose to retreat instead of continuing to fight. Kon quickly treated Haruto. When he regained consciousness with all of Yaku's memories, Kon, Yoki, and the crow awaited his next command. Meanwhile, at Teacher Jin's side, just as he was about to clash with Zenjiro, Old Man Demand brought Amami back. Zenjiro chose to withdraw this time out of respect for the director, but he wouldn't act the same next time. Back to Haruto's group, they had arrived to retrieve Natsume's body. Taikiko was already waiting there. Whatever explanations she had were meaningless now. Haruto only wanted to take Natsume. He didn't mind clashing with her. Taikiko decided to leave. After that, he brought Natsume to the altar where Suzu was waiting. Following her instructions, Haruto carried out the ritual. A pillar of light appeared, illuminating everything. Whether it would succeed or not was still unknown. As for Teacher Jin, he had asked Old Man Demand to become his familiar, and the old man accepted without hesitation. Some time later, everyone was still waiting for the result. Then Tenma received a call from Suzu the ritual had succeeded, but she said it would take more time before they could see Haruto and Natsume again. Realizing that Haruto had become Yaku, they decided not to wait, they would go find him to remind him of all they had gone through together. In a pure white room, Natsume was awakened by Haruto. Both of them were overjoyed to see each other again, and they took the opportunity to finally confess their feelings. They shared a kiss. After that, Haruto apologized to Natsume, saying he had something he needed to do now, and asked her to wait for him. When the time came, they would go eat shaved ice together again. Natsume then fell back asleep, while Haruto set off on a new journey with the two Shikigami. The anime ends here. Farewell.